Hello everyone, welcome to Dania University College HSC first year online class. Hope all of you with your family are physically and mentally sound in this corona pandemic. My name is Sanjit Kumar, Faculty, Department of English, Dania University College. The students, I know all of you are well aware of that English is one of the most important subjects in your HSC course. So I think all of you have already started studying English at your home very seriously. And you have already purchased your course materials, I mean your English books. Those who didn't buy the book yet, I would like to ask you to purchase 3 books. First 2 ones are Digdarshan English First and Second Paper book, and the third one is the board textbook English for Today. I have written the book's name on the board. You just look at the board. Digdarshan English Prothom ও দ্বিতীয় পত্র, board textbook English for Today. You just purchase only these 3 books because we will set all the question and we will prepare all the important practice sheet on grammar and comprehension only from these 3 books. So you don't need to purchase any other books except these 3 ones. So dear students, don't delay or don't waste your time. You just purchase these 3 ones and start studying at your home. Dear students, on today's lecture I'm going to throw some light on 2 things. At first I would like to discuss with the problems you are facing in learning English. Then I will discuss with the writing part. What are the problems in learning English? If I ask you this sort of question, what would be your answer? Your answer might be that you are facing a great problem with your grammar. But all due respect, with your emotion, I disagree. I don't think so. Grammar is the not problem. But the problem is with language. We usually ran after grammar, that's why we can't speak in English fluently, and we also can't make better result in English. So that's why my suggestions for you, you just move on to language, English language. How will you improve your skill in English language? Dear students, my suggestion for you to improve your skill in English language, at first you chase vocabulary. I mean, you go through vocabulary with correct pronunciation, spelling and use. Where will you get these necessary words or necessary vocabulary? My suggestion for you, you just purchase all the English books from class 1 to degree level and start going through the necessary words from that books. In those books you will have all the necessary words with correct pronunciation, spelling and use. We usually commit one common mistake that we only memorize the words, we never go for the use or the application of the words. That's a big problem for us. That's why we are memorizing the words, but we can't remember the words and we can't use the words when we communicate with others, or when we go for writing in English, we can't apply those words. That's why my suggestion for you, you must memorize the words with your correct spelling, pronunciation and application. Dear students, then I tell you about the grammar. There are only a few grammatical items which need to be gone through by you. Those important grammatical items are person, verb, sentence, tense, right form verbs, passive voice, parts of speech, preposition. If I suggest you from the very beginning, so I will start with person. Person, what is a person? The subject of any sentence is called person. All of you have good knowledge about person, so I don't like to discuss with person. Then I go for verb. Verb, it's a very important element of a sentence. There are many kinds of verbs. They are auxiliary verb, principal verb, to be verb, finite verb, non-finite verb, transitive verb, intransitive verb, regular verb, irregular verb. But in my suggestion, you don't need to go through all these verbs. You just go for only 3 kinds of verbs. They are to be verb, auxiliary verb and principal verb. To be verb is also one kind of auxiliary verb. So if you go through auxiliary verb, to be verb will automatically be learned. So dear students, at the time of learning verb, you will also learn to use, proper use. How will you use these verbs in your sentence, in your communication, I mean in your both speaking and writing. Then I will switch on sentence. Sentence, you know, It's very important thing, sentence. So there are two kinds of sentences in English language. There are conversion of sentences and transformation of sentences. Transformation of sentences, you all have good knowledge about transformation of sentences. It's somewhat difficult for the students to go through because there are so many rules in transformation of sentences. When students go to transform the sentences from one form to another, I mean simple to complex, complex to compound, or vice versa, students usually face problems with the rules. The rules are very easy to understand or very easy to learn, but they can't remember all the rules, or they can't apply the rules when they need to transform the sentences from one form to another. That's also a big problem for the students. But unfortunately, in my opinion, transformation of sentences is not so essential for us to communicate in English. So that's why I won't emphasize on the transformation of sentences. Instead, I will emphasize on the conversion of sentences. What is that conversion of sentences? There are 5 kinds of sentences in conversion of sentences. They are assertive, interrogative, imperative, optative, exclamatory. You all have good knowledge on these 5 kinds of sentences. But if any student asks me to tell him in short or in brief the important sentences, I will answer to his question that there are only 3 kinds of sentences which are very important to communicate smoothly. Those 3 kinds of sentences are affirmative, negative, and interrogative. You just think about the topic. From waking up from bed early in the morning to go to bed at night, we just use 3 kinds of sentences most. Those 3 kinds of sentences are affirmative, negative, and interrogative. For example, your mom is asking you, will you go to college tomorrow? No, I won't. Will you have breakfast now? No. What are you doing? I'm learning. What will you do the day after tomorrow? I will go for shopping. So every time, I mean most of the time, we usually these 3 kinds of sentences: affirmative, negative, and interrogative. So if you have good command over these 3 kinds of sentences, I can guarantee you it would be possible for you to communicate in English very easily. Then I would like to discuss with tense. Tense is called the father of English language. Without tense, it's not possible for you to have good command over English. So you have to have good command over tense, but you have already good knowledge on tense because you are going through tense from class 5 to till now. So I don't want to discuss with tense. I'll just discuss with the use of some confusing words. Those confusing words are have, has, shall, will. Okay, dear students, I'm just discussing with the use of have and has. Has is used only with the third person singular subjects, and you can use have with the rest of the subjects except the third person singular subject. Shall, will. We usually use shall with only the I and we. You can also use shall in some subjects, in some cases where you will emphasize on the action of the verb. For example, your teacher is asking you to join college tomorrow just at 10 a.m. and he is emphasizing on your presence. So you shouldn't absent. You don't have any opportunity to keep yourself absence tomorrow. So in that case, your teacher will ask you, you shall join college tomorrow at 10 a.m. There you will use shall with you, although we are used to using will with you, but in this case, in this sort of case, you will have to use shall. When you are going to focus on the action of a verb, you are going to emphasize on the action of a verb, you have to use shall, not will. So dear students, that's about tense. Now I would like to discuss with right form of verbs. Right form of verbs is also very important grammatical item. Without the rules of right form of verbs, you can't communicate successfully with others. So that's why you should go through all the rules of right form of verbs. But there are so many rules in right form of verbs, about 40 to 50 rules. But in my opinion, you don't need to go through all these rules. You just go through 20 to 25 rules for getting smart in English with the right form of verbs, and you have direct 5 marks from right form of verbs in your syllabus. So you will go through the rules of right form of verbs. and the use of right form of verbs you need to understand. So when you will go through the rules of right form of verbs, you will understand properly the application of the rules in the passage. Then the person, then the parts of speech. Parts of speech. We all know there are 8 kinds of parts of speech, but among those 8 kinds of parts of speech, 5 kinds of parts of speech are very important. They are noun, verb, adjective, adverb, and prepositions. So in the parts of speech, how do parts of speech help us in English? In fact, parts of speech will help you to identify the words. Do you recognize the words? Which words are noun, which words are adjective, which words are adverb? Is it possible for you to recognize the words? You can clearly identify the words with the help of parts of speech, with the help of suffix and prefix. What is suffix and what is prefix? The letters which are added in the end of a word are called suffix. On the other hand, the letters which are added in front of a word are called prefix. So dear students, with the help of suffix and prefix, you can easily identify the words and you can easily form new words. So suffix, prefix, parts of speech will help you to increase your stock of vocabulary. So that's why you should have good command over the parts of speech. Dear students, so what I have said a few minutes back, that if you want to have good command over English, you don't need to go for grammar. You just need to learn a few grammatical items, and I have already discussed about those few grammatical items. Those few grammatical items are person, verb, sentence, tense, right form of verbs, parts of speech. Now I'm going to discuss with prepositions. There are 2 kinds of prepositions. There are suitable prepositions and appropriate prepositions. There are so many appropriate prepositions. Is it possible for you to understand or to remember all those appropriate prepositions? No, it's somewhat difficult for you. So my suggestion for you, you just memorize only the important appropriate prepositions. Where will you have those important prepositions? You can have these prepositions from your Digdarshan book. What I have said a few minutes back, to purchase this book, Digdarshan English First and Second Paper book. You don't forget, or you don't waste your time. You have to purchase this book as soon as possible and start studying at your home. What I have said in my lecture, you will have all these things in this book. So go to the market, purchase this book, Digdarshan First and Second Paper book. This one is first paper, but you have to buy the second paper book as well. So dear students, and along with these books, you buy the board textbook English for Today. And you will have all these things in these 3 books. You don't need to any other book. I'm telling you again and again, you don't need to any other books because we will set all the question, important grammar practice sheet, comprehension sheet only from these 3 books. So you just purchase these 3 ones, and these 3 ones will help you to increase your fluency in English. Dear students, I'm discussing with prepositions. What I've said, there are 2 kinds of prepositions. One is suitable preposition and another one is appropriate prepositions. And in my opinion, about 250 appropriate prepositions, which are very important for you to communicate when you are going to communicate with others, or when you are going to write in correct English. You need to use those appropriate prepositions. So you just memorize those appropriate prepositions from the Digdarshan book. And in the class, right now we are taking the virtual class, but when we will take the class physically, we hope within a very short time we are going to take physical class. So there we will mark the appropriate prepositions which you need to be memorized. And then suitable prepositions. What are the suitable prepositions? The suitable prepositions are in, on, at, before, after, without, except, about. But you have to understand the use of those suitable prepositions. And you will have all the uses of suitable prepositions in Digdarshan English Second Paper book. So purchase the book and go through the use from that book. Dear students, these are the grammatical items, and one item is left to discuss, that is passive voice. We are learning passive voice from class 6 till now, but there are 2 kinds of passive voice. One is with by, another one is without by. Usually students face problems with without by. For example, in some cases we use some passive voice, but we can't understand that these sentences are passive voice because we are used to using passive voice with the help of by. But there are some passive voices where you won't find by. For example, tea is grown in Sylhet. This is a passive voice. English is being taught. TV is watched. Football is being played. All these sort of sentences are in passive voice, but there is no use of by here. That's why students get confused to identify that these sort of sentences are from passive voice. So that's a big issue for the students. So dear students, you have to understand this sort of passive voices, and these sort of passive voices are being used immensely in our English. So you go through this sort of passive voice from Digdarshan book. Dear student, these are the grammatical items I have discussed. What I have said, that person, verb, sentence, tense, right form of verbs, passive voice, and parts of speech. I have discussed all these grammatical items. Now I would like to discuss with writing part. Dear students, writing. In writing part, we usually write two writing items. Those two writing items are paragraph and composition. We usually write these two writing items from class 6 to till now. So do you know the system of writing paragraph and composition? If I ask you a question, what are the differences between a paragraph and a composition? What would your answer be? Paragraph, it's very small in size. On the other hand, and composition, it's a very large in size. Paragraph, it must be in one para. Sometimes students make one more paras in a paragraph by mistake. You never do this. If you do this, you won't achieve any marks. Paragraph would be only in one para. It might be in so many pages, but all the paragraph will remain in one para. Remember this thing. On the other hand, you can't write composition in two paras. You have to write composition minimum in 3 paras. You can make more than 3 paras, but you have to make minimum 3 paras. So that is the main difference between a paragraph and a composition. Then some important differences. Paragraph would be one side of the topic. On the other hand, a composition covers all the sides of the topic. Paragraph. What are the structures of a paragraph? I'm just writing on the board. You look at the board. For example, this is a paragraph. You will have here 3 parts. At first, one sentence. This sentence is called topic sentence. There are some more sentences which are going to support the topic sentences. I mean, all these sentences are developing the topic sentence, and that's why all these sentences are called developers. Finally, one sentence. This one sentence is called Terminator. These students, I am showing on the board. Perhaps you are seeing that there are 3 parts in a paragraph. At first, you need to write down one sentence that is called topic sentence. Topic sentence is a very important sentence. You need to think again and again before writing the topic sentence. Then you will write some more sentences supporting or developing the topic sentences. All these sentences are called developers. Finally, you will give one sentence. That sentence is called Terminator. If I say you in easy English that the first sentence, I mean the introduction in one sentence, and in a composition we usually write down one para in the middle of the composition, that is called description. Here all the developers you can say description. In a composition, at the end we write one paragraph that is called conclusion para. You can say here conclusion in one sentence. So these are the parts of a paragraph. One more thing, all the developers are connected smoothly with one another with some words. These words are called connectors or transitional devices or linking words. For example, there are so many connectors. For example, I can say firstly, secondly, thirdly, finally, after that, moreover, however, on top of that, on the other hand, in comparison, similarly, likewise. These are called connectors. In your paragraph, you need to use these connectors for smooth writing. There are so many kinds of writing a paragraph. I mean, there are many methods of writing a paragraph. The methods of those writing a paragraph are linking method, comparison method, contrast method, time order method, space order method, definition method, and so on. But listing method, comparison method, and contrast method, these three methods are very important for writing a paragraph. I will discuss these things elaborately a few minutes later. Now I will discuss with composition. Composition, it will cover all the sides of the topic. Here you need to write down minimum 3 paras. You can write more than 3 paras, but you can't write below 3 paras. So dear students, right now I'm going to give you an example on this paragraph and composition. For example, you are asked to write down a paragraph on computer. You are asked to write down a paragraph on computer. So start thinking about the topic. Computer. What are the sides in this topic? Computer, history of computer, history. There are so many scientists who toiled hard to invent computer. You can mention those things in one para, that is history. Then the instrument. There are so many things, I mean so many instruments which are needed to make a computer. There is a hard disk, keyboard, a monitor, etc., etc. All these things are instruments. Then the merits. What are the merits or benefits or useful sides of a computer? All the useful sides or merits will cover one para, that is merits. Then demerits. What are the demerits of computer? Although there are less demerits in a computer, sometimes we see computers are wasting our time. Our students usually play game on computer. That's why it creates problem for the students, and sometimes it also creates unemployment problem in the poorer countries. So all these are the demerits of a computer. So dear students, what I've said, you are asked to write a paragraph on computer. So you have thought on the topic and got these 4 sides: history, instrument, merits, and demerits. When you are going to write down a paragraph, you can develop only one side of this topic. You can't develop all of these sides in your paragraph. If you develop all of these sides in your paragraph, it would be a composition. It won't be a paragraph. So dear students, bear in mind or remember that you can cite only one side of the topic in your paragraph. You are not allowed to cite all the sides of the topic in your paragraph. For example, if you are going to develop only the history in your paragraph, you will tell or describe only the history. You can't describe here instruments, merits, or demerits. If you are going to describe instruments, you will write down your paragraph only on instruments. Instruments, I mean, what are the materials or instruments necessary for making a computer? You just discuss with these instruments. If you are going to develop only the merits of the topic in your paragraph, you will develop only the merits. So dear students, what I am asking you, if you are asked to write a paragraph, at first you think on the topic and find out the sides, and you only develop one side of the topic. You are not allowed to develop all the sides of the topic. But when you are asked to write a composition on a topic, you can develop all the sides of the topic. For example, you are asked to write a composition on computer, so you have given a thought on the topic and found these 4 sides. Each side will one para. I mean, here you have got 4 paras. How many paras? 4 paras. In the beginning, you will give 1 para. This is called introduction para. And at the end, you will give 1 para. This is called conclusion para. How will you write down the introduction para? In the introduction para, you will develop or you will mention all the sides what you are going to write down below the introduction para. And conclusion, how will you write down the conclusion of your composition? In your composition, you will summarize all the paras above the conclusion para. So this is the way of writing a paragraph and a composition. I'm writing down the introduction para on this topic, I mean computer. So how will you start the introduction para? For example, you can cite computer, a wonderful invention of modern science. Modern science has many good sides. There are lots of scientists who toiled hard to invent computer. Finally, Charles Babbage invented computer. You have already mentioned the history in brief. Then you can say there are lots of instruments which are necessary to make a computer. Their hard disk, RAM, etc. You have already mentioned the instruments. Computer is used in every sectors, in everywhere. So it's a useful machine. You have mentioned the merits. And then you can say, although it has a lot of benefits, sometimes people blame that computer has some demerits. You have also mentioned the demerits. So in the introduction para, you will mention all the sides of the topic. And finally, conclusion para. Conclusion para would cover all the things in your paragraph. I mean, it would summarize all the paragraphs above the conclusion para. How will you write down the conclusion para? You can say, computer, a wonderful, an excellent invention of modern science, is helping us in many ways. Although it has some demerits, we should use computer in proper way, and in this way mankind would be benefited by the use of computer. But if you are asked to write down a paragraph on this topic, which side will you develop? Usually we develop that side on which we can write more. In this paragraph, you can write more on which side? History, instrument, merits, demerits, conclusion. You can write more only on this side, I mean merits. Because you can write so many pages on merits, because computer has a lot of merits. So you choose the merits. So what would be your topic sentence? Computer has a lot of good sides. Computer has a lot of positive sides. Or you can make a long sentence. Computer, a phenomenal invention of modern science, has many good sides. Then you can say, firstly, computer is used in medical science to diagnose diseases. It's also used in banks, in financial areas. In this way, firstly. Secondly, with the help of these connectors, you can elaborate your paragraph. All these sentences are called developers. Finally, in the Terminator, I mean in concluding sentence, you will say that computer truly is benefiting mankind. So thus you can write your paragraph. However, dear students, we are on the finishing line. I hope all of you have enjoyed my today's lecture. If you have any query, issues, you please feel free to make comments, leave messages, or you can also call me. I would be happy. In closing, I would like to convey my heartfelt thanks to all my loving HSC first year students along with their guardians and other viewers for your precious time and patience. Good luck.